New York is the city that never sleeps, and neither does Sal Licata. From Flushing in the Bronx to the Meadowlands in MSG, Sal sounds off on the biggest sports news of the day. Welcome to WFAN Daily with Sal Licata.
A very special edition of WFAN Daily today, as we're Mets heavy, the Mets punching their ticket to the National League Championship Series. And I saw something a week ago that I had no idea about. Michael Cole of WWE is apparently a huge Met fan. So with the Mets red hot, hey, why not talk to Michael Cole about his Mets if we can? And he is gracious enough to give us some time here. You know, Michael, I saw you with McAfee last week. I was like, oh, crap, I've known Michael Cole. I can watch you forever, obviously. I had no idea you're a huge Mets fan.
Hey, Sal, first off, thanks for having me. We're in Greenville, South Carolina, getting ready for Friday Night SmackDown. But, I mean, it has been magical, right? The last couple of weeks, it's been incredible. I've been a Mets fan for over 50 years. My first recollection, 1973, World Series with my dad. He had season tickets for many years, obviously suffered through the late 70s and early 80s. Enjoyed the mid-'80s, late 80s, and then, of course, the debacle of the mid-'90s, and then back to the Subway Series. I heard you talking earlier today about being at Game 5. I was there as well, in the upper deck with my son at Old Shea Stadium. It's been a wild ride. I don't remember a time ever like this, however, in the last 50 years. I mean, we've had some winning teams. We won a World Series, but this has been absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and the last time you were on with McAfee, you talked about the Lindor moment, and I think it was after the Alonso home run as well. But since then, they beat the Phillies, and they've done it. Lindor grand slam, coming back in Game 1 against Wheeler. So that was going to be the first thing I was going to ask you. Where do you rank this year? I mean, these 2 weeks, but just this year, as far as, you know, you're watching Mets as long as you have. Where is this year ranking in their history amongst great seasons?
It's top three, and I'll tell you why. Because no one was expecting anything. This is a rebuilding year, right? No one was expecting us to be where we are today. Back in May, I was on the bandwagon of get rid of everybody, send everybody packing, and then the summer just got real interesting as it moved along. But I wasn't expecting to be here. I wasn't expecting to make the playoffs. When we did make the playoffs, I wasn't expecting to get by Milwaukee. I sure as hell wasn't expecting to get by Philadelphia. This is a top 3 season for me because there were really no expectations coming in, and everybody has just stepped up. I mean, even Pete recently, and I was one of the guys that wanted Pete out of here a month ago, and I just don't know how you don't offer to re-sign him now. But, 86 obviously was special. 73 was special. That was really the first year I really remembered anything. 2015 was a weird year, but this year is just so unexpected. Top 3 season for me.
How do you find the time? I'm fascinated by this. Like, you're doing SmackDown tonight, as you said. If the Mets and Phillies would have been playing a Game 5, how the hell are you going to find the time to watch that? So how do you take in your Mets fan, diehard Mets fan? How are you taking in your Mets throughout the course of the year, or especially in the postseason?
So when I'm on the air, and if there was a Game 5 tonight, my boss Lee Fitting shouldn't be listening to this, but I have the game on my phone at the announce desk at ringside with the volume down. When I was doing the Bad Blood premium live event this past Saturday, which was Game 1, I had the game on at the announce desk, and my partner Corey Graves kept looking over at me, and I was pumping my fist and I was jumping up and down while calling the action of the wrestling show. So, it's just, I love New York sports. I was brought up in Poughkeepsie, Jets fan, huge Knicks fan, but baseball is my number one sport, and I watch every single game, 162 games a year, and it's been lifelong for me.
Oh, God, I love hearing that. Now, you've been in the WWE for a very long time as well. Like, is Corey Graves or whoever else you've come across? I remember Howard Finkel. I used to DM with him a little bit, the late, great Howard Finkel. I know he was a sports fan. So I know there are a lot of you guys in that company that we don't, as sports fans, get to see that side of you. Give me some names that we would know that are diehard sports fans like yourself, if any.
Corey Graves, massive Pittsburgh fan. Steelers, Pirates. He's a baseball guy like me. He's suffered for many years now without a playoff team. He knows what it's like. He's a massive sports fan. Lee Fitting, who is our boss, is a massive New York sports fan. We've been texting nonstop throughout the playoffs. A lot of the guys in the ring. love sports. John Cena, major sports fan.
Who does he root for? What's
He,
Cena a
he,
fan of?
he was a Red Sox guy, but he became
Okay.
sort of like a Tampa Bay guy when he moved down to Tampa. So we talk a lot about that. Damian Priest, our former world champion, major Yankees fan. We get into it all the time. And of course, we're hoping for a Subway Series, which would be great. So a lot of the guys are baseball fans, but again, it's mostly football on our crew. But there are a few guys that love baseball.
Yeah, former Kurt Hawkins, Brian Myers, formerly
Yep.
Kurt Hawkins. He's a big Mets fan. I've become friendly with him actually over the years. It was always fascinating to me, the wrestling then sports fan dynamic. And like you said, I know sometimes there'll be references to it. Heck, I remember actually watching, could have been a Saturday Night Main Event. It was something years ago, but I was watching Piper in 1986 at the Garden. It was either in New York at the Garden or at the Boston Garden. He was referencing the Mets and Red Sox. So
Yep.
those references have been going on for a very long time in your business. But when I see you and when I saw you with McAfee, I knew it wasn't just like, oh, I grew up rooting for the Mets. I could tell you're a diehard, passionate fan.
Oh, we had season tickets for many years. In fact, during the broadcast on Saturday, our Bad Blood Premium Live event, our producer, Brian Fathom, and our director, Marty Miller, are massive Phillies fans. So obviously, when the Mets were winning during the Nia Jax Bailey match, I said Nia is crushing Bailey like the Mets are the Phillies right now. So I had to work that into the show. No, I mean, my dad was a Brooklyn Dodgers fan. My grandfather was a Yankees fan. So when the Dodgers left town, my dad really didn't have a team for a number of years because he didn't want to root for the Yankees. And obviously, when the Mets came along, he was a National League guy. Enjoyed the Mets and brought me along. And Tom Seaver was his guy. I one of the only times I ever remember my dad crying was the day that they traded Seaver away. That just seeing that and the emotion, and that's the thing about baseball, Sal, and better than anybody. There is not a sport on this planet that is as emotional as this game. It'll break your heart, but it'll also bring you to the greatest heights. And watching for the last 2 days, all I've been doing has been on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now, watching video from Citi Field and watching the interviews and watching the explosion of the place when Lindor hit the home run. And it's just, you can't script that stuff unless you're a baseball fan that lives and dies for 162 games a year with your team. The ups and downs and understanding April 1st is just as important as September 30th. I don't think you can appreciate those moments. But as I've told everyone over the past 2 weeks, there is nothing like playoff baseball in New York in October. There's nothing in sports that is anywhere close to that.
Gives me goosebumps because I know what you're saying. And for me, like I love football too. That's great. Baseball's always been my favorite. And the beauty of the story from opening day or even spring training, opening day, and throughout the course of the summer, and now in the playoffs, it doesn't get any better. Have you checked your schedule and mapped out potential NLCS games that you could go to or World Series? Could you potentially make any?
I'm actually leaving tomorrow for Cozumel, Mexico for a 10-day family vacation with the entire family and grandkids. However, all my kids are massive Mets fans, so we will be watching every single game in Mexico, and I'm hoping they get by either the Dodgers or Padres because I'm definitely coming to New York for if they make the series for one of those games. I was there in 2000. I went to a game in 2015. I plan on at least going to one this year.
Love to hear that. Now, you referenced before the Subway Series. Do you want the Yankees this year?
Of course I do. But I also agree 100% with what you said earlier. Despite no expectations coming into this year, despite the miracle run they've been on, if they make it to the World Series and play the Yankees and lose to the Yankees, it is a failure of a season. It is, because there is no way with everything that's happening that we can go in there and lose to the Yankees. First off, I want to play the Yankees, obviously, but I also want the Yankees to lose because I think we get a better shot at Soto if the Yankees don't make the World Series and the Mets do, because now Soto maybe want to be a part of this and what has become a family. The Yankees, to me, and I hate the Yankees, right? We hate them, respect them. But the Yankees, to me, are business this year. They're a business team. The Mets are a family. And this is two completely different teams that may be on a collision course for each other. So I'm hoping that we meet but I also want Soto here, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the crazy thing. All year long, we were talking about how, well, it's shaping up to be a Mets versus Yankees offseason to have Steve Cohen, who's as rich as anybody in the sport, go chase Juan Soto and maybe get him away from the Yankees, which we've never seen before. And the Yankees obviously trying to retain him. Who would have thought, Michael, that it could turn out to be Mets versus the Yankees in the World Series first and then Juan Soto? But I can't. I hate the Yankees too. I'm with you. I grew up hating the Yankees. I can't stomach a loss. That would maybe ruin me as a Mets fan.
100%. I mean, you were there. I heard you say Game 5, 2000, the Yankees clinching on our field.
Mm.
I remember, Piazza going deep, and we all thought, oh my God, the game's tied. Right, Leiter with an unbelievable game. It was sickening walking out in the parking lot after that game, realizing we just lost to these guys on our home turf. I don't want that to happen again. And but I do want to take on the Yankees. Let's do it. I mean, but at this point in time, I'll take on anybody.
Yeah, just get to the World Series. Look, it's going to be great reward, but obviously great risk as well for the Mets. You just can't. You want to beat them, but you can't take losing to them again. Have you ever thought about doing sportscast? I read that you started with CBS News. Did you ever do any sportscasting or want to do any sportscasting in your career?
So I did. I went to college, Syracuse, and I was Mike Tirico, and Mike was in my class same year. We called football and basketball games together for our 4 years there. I called the Final Four. I called Syracuse and Indiana. I called the Sugar Bowl. So that's really what I wanted to do. When I got out of college, I had an offer to either go to work in Houston for CBS News or go to West Virginia to work for the West Virginia Mountaineers Network. I ended up taking the news. It was a little better paying job at the time at 21 years old. And I worked in news for a number of years. I worked at WCBS, the late, great WCBS in New York for a few years. And then I got into wrestling, and I was doing radio news. And I figured, let me go do some TV for a couple of years, get some TV experience, and I haven't left.
Did you grow up a fan of wrestling, or you just got into it because you had a job opportunity? Yeah, you don't want to give this a chance. Were you a wrestling fan?
Big wrestling fan as a kid, through my college years in the 80s, the first WrestleMania and all that. And then I got away from it, obviously, when I got into news. And then I got back in. Todd Pettengill, who was a big DJ in New York at the time, was working with us, and he got me in for an audition. And that's how I ended up here. And, just have made a career, of it at this point. But I've always wanted to be a baseball announcer. I wish I had that opportunity back in the day, but I'm very happy with where I am now.
It's funny. I grew up wanting to be like the next Marv Albert, who also went to Syracuse, of course, as you
Yep.
know. And I was thinking, I want to be the voice of the Mets and Knicks and Rangers. And then I discovered Mike and the Mad Dog, and I was like, what the? I'm not going to do all that work that goes into being a play-by-play guy. Let me just go rant and talk about sports the way that I love it. A couple more, Michael, before we let you go. And I do want to promote this. I can't wait. I was just talking about this with BT today, actually, on our radio show. Saturday night's main event is returning, and it's returning to Long Island at the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum on December 14th. Cannot wait for that live on NBC. Also, Raw is moving to Netflix next year. Don't miss the debut on Monday, January 6th, live on Netflix. Very exciting time for the WWE, your company doing great things as always.
It's been incredible. Paul Triple H Levesque's in charge now. He's got a real great vision. We've got some, a lot of eyes on the product. Netflix gave us a lot of money. We can't wait to start with them. Obviously bringing in Pat McAfee has done wonders, for us and gotten us a lot of visibility outside of our normal fan base. Joe Tessitore just joined us, obviously a great play-by-play guy. So, the product is, it's not your daddy's wrestling company anymore. We're an entertainment show, scripted television, but very physical, massive stars. John Cena's coming back for his final year, his retirement run. The Rock's back in the fold. Roman Reigns, a massive star now. So the company's really rolling, but we're really looking forward to Saturday night's main event. Cause again, back in the 80s, that was it, right? Gorilla and Jesse hosting the show.
Yeah.
And, every once in a while on Saturday night, places Saturday Night Live, and now we're back on NBC, and it's going to be really cool. Especially the first place we ever had a Saturday night's main event was Long Island and Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. We're back.
You ever think about that sometimes? Like I find myself getting caught. Like you go through the daily grind. It's a job, but man, I'm like sometimes I'm on WFAN. Like I grew up listening to Mike and the Mad Dog. For me, watching wrestling, like wow, as you just mentioned, Jesse Ventura or Gorilla Monsoon, you, Michael Cole, are a legend yourself. You ever think about the magnitude of what you accomplished in your career?
No, because I'm still going strong, right? I'm taking a vacation next week. It's the first one I've taken in a long while. Just like you, we take our job seriously. When I look back, I've done everything. I've called 20 something WrestleManias. I actually had a match at WrestleMania one
Yeah.
year. It's been pretty incredible. To miss 3 or 4 television shows over 27 years. But I still feel like I got a lot left in me. I just signed a long-term deal with the company. I'll be doing this for a few more years. I'll be back on Netflix doing Monday Night Raw, making history in January, which is great. And I just enjoy it. It's so weird because when I first started in this company, people thought I was crazy going to wrestling. Like, oh my God, you're leaving news to go to that fake stuff. Now 25, 27 years later, it seems like everybody wants to be involved in what we're doing, because we're just taking over the world. And it's just been, hard work from everyone involved. It's just it's a great family to be a part of right now. And obviously with the big TV deals, it's made everything even better.
You guys are an unstoppable machine, and it does seem like it just continues to grow and grow and grow. All right, we'll finish up on the Mets. So you talked about Lindor and these moments that the Mets have had. Where would you, and you go back longer than I do, where would you rank Lindor as far as greatest Mets in franchise history?
So, you know, I was real disappointed in his first couple of years in New York. And again, I struggle with the game today, Sal. It is such a different game than it was in the 80s, 70s, and 80s. Um, the use of pitchers drives me up the wall now. So when Lindor came in for all that money and you looked at his numbers the first couple of years, when you compare it to baseball, like today, they were great numbers. But I still have in my head, you know, the 80s and 90s and 70s and the numbers that these guys were putting up, 370, 380 every year for guys leading the league in average, home runs, 60 home runs or whatever. But when I finally sat down and broke down the Lindor numbers compared to the numbers of today, he was pretty incredible. And then this year to start out hitting under 200 in mid-May, late May, and to turn it on like he did, that home run to me was probably the biggest home run in franchise history. And I thought Pete had the biggest one
Yeah.
until Lindor did it again. Um, Lindor is fabulous. He's such a great guy for the community. He's playing well. And, I was talking about this with McAfee a little bit and Jeff Passan from ESPN. I understand the Ohtani argument to be MVP. He's had an historic year. You can't take anything away from that guy. Lindor obviously has to be in the mix. He plays every day. With the exception of the back injury for a couple of weeks, he's in the field. His defense sometimes is taken for granted. Uh, he's a switch hitter, hits for power, hits for average. He's been incredible, and he's got to be. I think personally, and of course I'm biased, he should be MVP this year. Ohtani doesn't play every day. At least this year he doesn't. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I would have had my vote for him too as MVP, but what he's done even since then, the home run you referenced in Atlanta, obviously the Grand Slam, and the way he does it, Michael, he doesn't do the bat flips, he's
No,
not trash talking. He said there's work to be done here. It doesn't mean anything until we win it all. I grew up, Piazza was my guy, like 86 Mets, yes. But
yep.
then Piazza, when I started going to games, I went to about 50 plus games in 2000, and Piazza always had the big moment, the big home run. David Wright was terrific. Beltran, even. I love Matt Harvey. I think Lindor, in my lifetime, what he's done in this 2-week stretch alone, this season, this 2-week stretch, I think he might be better than anything I've seen from a position player in my time watching the Mets.
Yeah, position player. I mean, Seaver, obviously, I think is the greatest Mets of all time, right? But I think, 86, I was a Keith guy. I was a Gary guy. Love Lenny and Mookie. But I think when you look at, to your point, everything Lindor has accomplished the past couple of weeks, he is in the argument for top 3, maybe top Met of all time. I mean, no one's ever going to forget the Piazza homer in, 2001, right?
Yep.
You couldn't have scripted that any better. There is no way that, and I think Nimmo said it in the post-game press conference the other day, there is absolutely no way that you could even sell this script as a movie because people wouldn't believe it.
Right.
It's a fantasy, everything that's happened over the past couple of weeks. But, Lindor, and the grace with which he plays the game. I mean, he hits the home run. He doesn't flip the bat. He walks around the bases, gets hugged and standing ovation. Winker said it in the post game, in the clubhouse, where he said, if I had had an infield hit, I would have went absolutely insane. And this guy just walks around the bases like it's so he's just he epitomizes who the Mets are today. And I think as he goes, they go. I think for a few years, I thought this was Pete's team. It's Lindor's team. I hope Pete comes back. I really do. I don't think I'd overpay him, but I hope he comes back. But this is Lindor's team now.
You said you didn't expect much going into the Milwaukee series, didn't expect much in the Philadelphia series. Where are you at now with the expectations for this National League Championship Series, whether it's the Dodgers or Padres?
We're playing with house money. That's how I'm looking at it. This team has a knack of winning games and coming back. It's just incredible. Back in May, or just being a Mets fan in general, when they would be down 3 runs in an 8th or 9th inning, I'd be texting my buddies, "This is over. I'm turning on Netflix to watch a movie." Can't do that this time around. It's cardiac kids, whatever you want to call them, absolutely incredible. And the fight that this team shows, it gives me goosebumps, like you said earlier. This has been an unbelievable ride, but to me, it's why baseball is the greatest sport on the planet. It's passion, it's emotion, it's theater, it's everything. It'll break your heart, but it'll also bring you to the highest heights in the world. It's amazing.
And let's hope that it results in a World Series win over those damn Yankees,
Yes.
Michael. Hey, we appreciate the time. It's a lot of fun for me, so thank you very much for taking the time. I hope to see you out at the Coliseum December 14th for that Saturday night main event.
I'll be there. I hope you're there, Sal.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, guys.